So, for years, DC had a reputation for its animation, with shows like Batman the Animated Series and the rest of the DCAU, or straight-to-video movies like Under the Red Hood or Justice League Doom. It was a common consensus that DC's animated stuff was frankly unmatched for over a decade. They sort of lost that reputation as of late with weird hit-or-miss movies in their animated connected universes, but I think now it seems like they're making a comeback. You have Batman Caped Crusader, My Adventures with Superman, the trailer for Creature Commandos looks great, and the announcement of a Blue Beetle animated series has me really excited for animation in this new DCU. I fully believe that animation is the best medium for comic book adaptations. As much as I love the live action interpretations, there's so much more that animation can do for these stories, and there are so many great characters that have never got an animated series and can thrive in that setting, either as a part of the new James Gunn DCU or as their own thing. And so here are some DC characters that deserve an animated series. Listen, I know I'm like the Green Arrow guy, and like I bring up Green Arrow all the time, but like I'm trying to spice things up. I'm trying to keep these videos fresh, so I'm going to do my best to not talk about Green Arrow in this video. And that's why the first character that needs a show is Green Arrow. Oh my god, I couldn't even last like 2 seconds. I think I have a problem. Last month, it was confirmed that one of my favorite DC shows at the moment, My Adventures with Superman, is going to be getting a 3rd season and introducing Superboy into the cast. And better yet, it looks like they're going to be pulling from my favorite design for the character with the leather jacket and sunglasses. I don't hate the black t-shirt or anything, but this fit is just so goddamn hard. And if you want to get similar stylish glasses at an affordable price, check out today's sponsor, Warby Parker. Warby Parker provides high-quality glasses and eyewear without breaking the bank. They design every frame in-house, and their collection is glasses made to suit every face shape. Their website has a virtual try-on feature that lets you see how each frame looks on your face from the comfort of your own home, or if you prefer shopping in stores, Warby Parker has more than 250 retail locations across the US and Canada where you can get styled by one of their expert advisors. This is the pair that I got from them. I was honestly needing some new sunglasses before they reached out to me, so this is kind of just like a match made in heaven, and I really like these. I think these are really fun. Kind of like this like Matt Murdock or Scott Summers kind of vibe. That's like totally my thing. I love it. Their glasses start at $95 and include prescription lenses with anti-reflection and scratch-resistant coatings with free shipping and free 30-day returns. And many locations offer comprehensive eye exams starting at $85, making Warby Parker your all-in-one, one-stop shop for prescription eyewear, contacts, and eye exams. As of 2023, over 15 million pairs of glasses have been distributed through their Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program. For every pair of glasses sold, a pair is distributed to someone else in need. Add a second pair and save 15% when you purchase 2 or more prescription pairs of glasses or sunglasses, both online and in stores. Thanks so much to Warby Parker for sponsoring this video, and thanks to my patrons who are able to get all my videos early and ad-free for just $1 a month. Today, I'm mainly going to be talking about characters who've never gotten their own show before, so if I see you in the comments being like, Batman Beyond or Static Shock, I'm putting you on a list. The first character that I think needs an animated show is the Flash. One of the biggest reasons that I think animated shows are perfect for comic book adaptations is that they're both serialized stories. They let us see the day-to-day lives of these characters that isn't really possible in the movies. And my go-to example for that is always the Flash, and it's part of why Grant Gustin's depiction is so beloved. Because even when that show was at its weakest, we were still connected to his version of the character, and it still has its fans specifically because of that. And so I'd want to see the DCU do something similar, but this time through animation. I feel like in live action, there's only really like a couple ways super speed's ever been used visually. It's either time in a bottle, a jump cut with a gust of wind, or the girl from Eternals, which is the best one, but nobody watched that movie. So, or you can do whatever the hell this is, but we don't have to talk about that. And so instead, animators could go really crazy with the super speed and make it really stylized, something that literally couldn't be possible in live action. Like I'm thinking something in the vein of Rise of the TMNT or Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Push the medium to its fullest and show that a lot of these stories are genuinely at their best in this format. I think the biggest question for a show like this is what Flash to use. I'm a ride or die Wally West fan, and I think a series following that character in between Justice League movies could be a great way to utilize the Flash as opposed to just another solo movie. But I also think an animated Barry Allen show could be a lot of fun, assuming that he actually acts like Barry Allen for a change. If it were Barry, I think basing it off the Rebirth run by Josh Williamson and Carmine DiGiandomenico would be great. Williamson is always a solid writer, and he had a lot of fun ideas in that book, like introducing Godspeed and the counterparts of the Speed Force, which the CW show ended up adapting. Or if they go with Wally, they could base it off the Mark Waid and Greg LaRocque run from 1992, which is one of the most iconic runs in the history of the character. Literally, it's like required reading for any Flash fan. I think I've mentioned Mark Waid at least once in the past like 10 videos. But like, it's not like a bad thing, right? There's also the current run by Cy Spurrier and Mike Deodato, which is going into a lot of the crazier sci-fi concepts, which is really fun for the character and could lend itself really well to animation. One thing that I would need a show like this to do is to not fall into the same formula that the CW show did. I don't want a team Flash inside of Barry or Wally's ear telling him what to do and how to solve problems. I don't want a dedicated base or a whole massive group of characters unrelated to the Flash family. A lot of those limitations were because of the show's budget restrictions and an attempt to match traditional police procedural storytelling, which makes sense. They had to pump out 23 of those a year. I'd try to streamline streamline the process as much as possible too. But with an animated show, things like that aren't really a restriction. A scene set on a street in Central City takes about the same time and budget as a scene in Gorilla City. And so I'd want to see a Flash that's more independent and capable, working out his problems on his own with his own creativity instead of having someone in his ear just telling him to run faster. This sounds like I'm hating on the Flash show. Like, I promise I don't. I actually have a lot of really fun memories of that thing. Can't say the same about the movie though. The next character that I think deserves an animated show is Animal Man. Created in 1965 by Dave Wood and Carmine Infantino, Buddy Baker was a stuntman who, after coming across an alien spaceship in the woods, was able to tap into the red, the life force that connects all animals on Earth, much like Swamp Thing's the green. And now he has the power to mimic the abilities of any nearby animal, and he uses those powers to fight not only for justice for other humans, but also stand up for the rights of animals and environmental protection. I think Animal Man could be such a great addition to the world of the DCU and let us explore concepts in greater metaphysical forces like the red and the green and their different avatars. I mean, we're getting Swamp Thing, so I don't think it's out of the question to expand on those elements, and it'd be really cool to tie Beast Boy and Vixen into all of it, who are also avatars of the red. Just don't make Beast Boy actually red. Like, I get what they were going for, but that's weird. Grant Morrison and Chaz Truog's run on the character is legendary for how it broke the fourth wall, delved into metafiction, and explored existential themes, turning Animal Man into a meditation on reality, identity, and the superhero genre itself, which is like the most Grant Morrison thing ever. Like, what did you expect? But I'm a huge fan of Jeff Lemire and Travel Foreman's run from the New 52 in 2011, and would love to see that book get adapted into its own series in some way or another. That run dives deep into Buddy's connection with the Red, pitting him and his family against the forces of the Rot, a malevolent force that represents decay and death. And it injected a lot of horror elements into the series as opposed to Morrison's more psychological take, and at times it's genuinely pretty horrific. The early New 52 gets a lot of flack online, and a lot of times rightly so. A lot of those books just weren't great, and they undid a lot of character progression for some of DC's most iconic heroes. Even though most of those problems were on the editorial side of things and not the creators themselves, I definitely understand why some people don't look on the New 52 super fondly. But there were still some bright spots in the era for DC that led to some amazing stories, and Animal Man is for sure up there. There was a rumor that Fede Alvarez, the director of 2013's Evil Dead and Alien Romulus, might direct something for DC, and I think that this would be a perfect fit for him if they wanted to do it in live action. But also the style and the body horror of Foreman's art would be so interesting to adapt into animation in a way that live action just wouldn't be able to do. The next character that desperately needs an animated series is Nightwing. Listen, I get we've had BTAS and Teen Titans and Young Justice, all of which are great and have put Dick Grayson in the spotlight, but I honestly think a solo Nightwing book focusing on him fighting crime in Bloodhaven could be fantastic. Dick Grayson's one of my favorite characters at DC. I made a video pitching a live action Nightwing movie in the DCU, but I think an animated series could give us the screen time with the character that wouldn't really be possible in a movie. Maybe it could be like what's happening for Blue Beetle, a live action movie with a follow-up TV show and then him showing up in other movies later down the line. There actually was a pitch for a Nightwing show back in 2009 from one of the character designers behind Avatar: The Last Airbender that never got picked up, but from what we can see, the concept art looked really cool. It could honestly be like DC's version of Spider-Man, but with the darker aesthetics of a Batman show. Hell, if Greg Weisman isn't sick of DC by now, I'd love to see him come in and give the character the spectacular Spider-Man treatment. Hell, don't even let Batman show up in the series. Aside from his origin and the necessary characters involved there, they should let Nightwing stand completely alone and hold the show up on his own. That's part of what I love about My Adventures with Superman. It doesn't keep teasing you with references or cameos, or trick you into watching to see some connected universe. It's just a good, solid Superman show, and that's all it needs to be. There are a ton of solo Nightwing comics they could pull from. I'm personally a big fan of Kyle Higgins and Eddie Barrow's run from the New 52, as well as Tim Seeley and Javier Fernandez's run from Rebirth. Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo's current run has been pretty enjoyable. I'm not like in love with the book or anything. It's a little bit too safe for me, but I love Redondo's art, and it would be cool to take some inspiration from that. It would honestly be nice for Nightwing to get an animated series that takes a lot of his lore and his supporting characters and puts them into one singular package. I think the reason he's struggled to have a solid rogues gallery or cast outside of Batman is because different writers keep trying to do different things, and there isn't really like a Nightwing Bible like there is for a lot of other characters. The next DC animated show I want to see is The Losers. During the 1960s and 70s, both DC and Marvel published a lot of war comics. Marvel had Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, while DC had Sergeant Rock, Blackhawks, and GI Combat. And it was the latter book which first introduced The Losers in 1969, created by Robert Kaniger and Ross Andru, a ragtag team of World War II soldiers brought together from across the war cinematic universe to take on dangerous and oftentimes tragic missions. Now, The Losers actually had a movie in 2010 set in the modern day, starring honestly a pretty stacked cast. It was based on the Andy Diggle and Jock run from 2003, which was very loosely based on the original series. That book was part of the Vertigo line, with DC taking forgotten titles and giving writers and artists full creative control to revitalize the brand. And while that book is great, I want to see something like how Darwin Cook used the team in DC: The New Frontier. In that book, The Losers had a brief appearance as a team of World War II veterans tasked to explore Dinosaur Island, which ended with the losers not winning. The entire story was Darwin Cook's love letter to the history of DC Comics as a publication, and I love how he included these guys in that history, embodying the transition from the war hero into the superhero. It was even made canon during Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason's run on Superman during Rebirth, and so a series could expand on that, show this team having to survive and try to escape this place, but ultimately ending in tragedy. Either a miniseries or maybe just an animated movie, maybe taking inspiration from Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, and having an art style like Darwin Cook in the New Frontier animated movie, which is my favorite of all of DC's animated stuff. Honestly, I just want Dinosaur Island to get some love. Like, come on, on, Aquaman. It was right there. Just give me a name drop and I'm happy. Like, just have Jason Momoa be like, all right, what is this, some kind of dinosaur island? My man. The next character that I think desperately needs an animated show is The Question. The Question first appeared in 1967 and was created by Steve Ditko. Yes, that's Steve Ditko. Vic Sage is a vigilante detective and journalist who wears a faceless mask to confront crime and corruption in his city. He was originally published by Charlton Comics, which was later folded into DC. In fact, Alan Moore originally wanted to use the Charlton characters for Watchmen, including The Question, Captain Atom, Nightshade, Peacemaker, and Thunderbolt, but wasn't allowed to. Vic Sage is one of my favorite characters in the DC universe, along with Renee Montoya as the second Question, and he has a lot of fans after his role in Justice League Unlimited, which it did a pretty great job adapting him. A Question show doesn't necessarily have to be animated or anything, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how you do this in live action without it being terrifying. Like, in animation, it's fun and it's endearing. This is nightmare fuel. The animation style can be dark and gritty, sort of like Cape Crusader. And if they ever do a Question show of any kind, they have to pull from Denny O'Neil and Dennis Cowan's run. It's fantastic. It's character defining. Denny O'Neil was legitimately a legend and had such an impact on not only The Question, but also characters like Batman, Green Arrow, Iron Man, and so many more. O'Neil's run dived into the philosophical and moral dilemmas, showing Vic Sage as a deeply complex and flawed person, a departure from the Ayn Rand objectivist that he was created to represent. It was more mature than other superhero comics, tackling gritty and uncomfortable topics that weren't really commonplace at the time and set a new standard for what comics could do. A lot of people put a lot of weight on a character's original creators and their contributions, and for good reason. Of course, these people are important. They literally came up with the ideas, like they wouldn't exist without them. But nobody gives the credit to the runs that made these characters who they are today. The revolving door of writers and artists can sometimes be a problem for the comics medium, don't get me wrong, but other times I think it's its biggest strength. And so I would love to take that O'Neil run, spruce it up a little bit for a modern audience, and adapt as much of that as possible. And if you wanted to go crazy with the animation style, Rick Veitch and Tom Lee Edwards' 2005 run had a lot of psychedelic elements that might be fun to incorporate. Also, if The Question gets more of a spotlight, maybe DC can stop adapting Watchmen. Seriously, that's a dead horse that can we just move on from? And speaking of detectives, the next character that deserves an animated show is Detective Chimp. You listen here, James Gunn. I don't care what it takes. I don't care what deals with the devil you have to make, or if you have to make it animated or drag Andy Serkis back into that fucking monkey costume. You'd better get me a Detective Chimp show, motherfucker. The next animated series that I want to see from DC is Earth 2. Hang on, not that Earth 2, that Earth 2. Earth 2 was a series that began in 2012, written by James Robinson with art by Nicuolo Scott and Tom Taylor taking over as the writer midway through. It ran for 35 issues and followed an alternate version of the DC universe that reimagined a lot of its Golden Age heroes. In this universe, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are killed trying to fight a massive apocalyptic invasion, forcing Alan Scott Green Lantern, Jay Garrick Flash, and Kendra Saunders Hawkgirl, among others, to step up as this universe's Justice Society and fight back against Steppenwolf. I mean, we're getting Isabella Merced as Kendra and Superman, so this honestly doesn't feel out of the question either, now that I think about it. In a similar vein to 2006's 52, which followed the year after Infinite Crisis where the Trinity had disappeared, Earth 2 gave a spotlight to a whole different cast of heroes and even created some new ones like Lois Lane's consciousness becoming the Red Tornado, Thomas Wayne as Batman, not that one, and my personal favorite, Val Zod as Superman. Not related to General Zod, Val Zod first appeared in Earth 2 number 19, written by Tom Taylor with art by Nicuolo Scott. He's a Kryptonian who was raised in isolation after the death of his family on Krypton and kept in containment by Earth 2's Mr. Terrific for years and sheltered from the rest of the world. My favorite thing about Val Zod and what makes him such an interesting character is that he's a pacifist. Where the traditional Superman preferred peace when possible, he's not opposed to smacking a few heads around if the situation calls for it, but Val Zod denounces violence and force in all of its forms. And I think it's such an interesting and compelling concept to put all this power and this strength into the hands of someone who, by all accounts, doesn't want to use it, but still finds ways to help people and be a hero while still holding true to those beliefs. Listen, I know Tom Taylor is like very hit or miss nowadays, but God, his early stuff was so sick. Like, what happened, man? And so an animated series maybe coming over to live action when they adapt Convergence or Crisis on Infinite Earths for the 50th fucking time could be a lot of fun and give the character the spotlight that I think he deserves. Also, like, what's going on with that Michael B. Jordan thing? Is that still happening? Let's be real, it's probably not. This book was a lot of fun, and it being only 35 issues, it could be a really interesting opportunity for DC to have its own Invincible and directly adapt the story for a new medium. Normally, I don't mind too much when there's a fair amount of creative liberties and adaptations, and I don't need everything to be one-to-one, but at the same time, part of me has always wanted to see a Big 2 comic get the anime treatment, and this seems like a perfect opportunity. But the character that needs an animated series the most is Wonder Woman. I was honestly going to make a whole dedicated video about this because we've had God knows how many Batman and Superman shows. It is well past time to round out the Trinity and give us at least one legit animated solo Wonder Woman series. Every couple of weeks, I see the Mount Rushmore debate. Basically, the question is, if you had to create a superhero Mount Rushmore, a memorial to the 4 most impactful comic book characters, who would be on there? And the first 3 are always obvious: Superman, Spider-Man, and Batman. Like, there's really not any debate about that, but the 4th option is always some hot button issue when, if you ask me, I think it's just as obvious. Wonder Wonder Woman was the first female superhero. She opened the door for countless other female characters like her, created a whole new generation of female comic book readers, and inspired millions. She was literally an honorary UN ambassador with a hugely popular show from the 70s and an emblem that rivals the iconography of Superman. She extends beyond just like comic book fandoms and movie box offices and into the regular cultural zeitgeist, which can't be said for a lot of other characters. Sure, her last movie was pretty terrible and her mainstream popularity is kind of at a low right now compared to someone like Iron Man or Wolverine or whatever, but nobody can come close to the sheer level of cultural impact and importance that is Wonder Woman. And the fact that DC is just sitting on this icon of a character and not really doing anything with her is really frustrating. And so an animated show that dives deeper into her villains and her lore could be the thing that we need to remind people just how important the character really is. At the very least, let's like actually do something with her villains, because Jesus Christ, the movies didn't do jack shit. For her costume design, I know there's like a lot of discourse about that, but honestly, I don't really have any strong opinions. I think one of the few people who still really loves how she currently looks with the battle skirt, but I also get people who want to see something different or see the classic design. Like, this is a design from like 2015. I get wanting to move on, but also it's in Fortnite. Use my creator code TroyAboyo17, please. I know there's the big Marvel season right now and I know everybody's buying skins, so please use my code so I can get some money. Thank you. A lot of Wonder Woman stuff as of late has really leaned into giving her the sword and the shield. And while I think those are cool and all, I much prefer her having the lasso. There are a lot of misconceptions about Diana's character, with so many people seeing the warrior aspect and only running with that and treating her like some bloodthirsty maniac, which isn't really fair, and only giving her the sword reinforces that. Although if you're gonna give her a sword, give her a giant buster sword like Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman's Absolute Wonder Woman is doing. Turns out the way to get me to like the sword is by making it bigger. Diana, more than anything, is a kind and gentle soul, one who's not opposed to using force, but not after attempting a peaceful solution first. And I think the lasso, being a primarily defensive and capture tool as opposed to brute force or violence, encompasses that mentality perfectly. Granted, I think the reason for this misconception is because a lot of comic writers also get that wrong and paint her as some crazy man-hating murderer. I swear to God, if I'm forced to see this fucking comic panel one more time, I'm gonna. As for comics to base it off of, George Perez's run from 1987 is iconic and character defining, and Greg Rucka's run from 2003 with Drew Johnson on art is fantastic. These are some of the two best Wonder Woman runs ever. If they want to tell her origin, Rucka's Wonder Woman Year 1 from 2016 with art by Nicola Scott is also a ton of fun. I'm mentioning Nicola Scott a lot today, I'm realizing. But like, again, not a bad thing. Speaking of origins, I swear to God, this new universe has to do the one where she's made out of clay by her mother. It's so much cooler, and I always hate when they try to retcon it out. Or if they wanted to go really crazy, they should adapt 2019's Wonder Woman Dead Earth by Daniel Warren Johnson. This book was about Diana waking up centuries after being cryogenically frozen and returning to a post-apocalyptic world ravaged by monsters where all of her fellow Justice League members are dead. Like, she comes across Batman's skeleton and then eventually uses Superman's spine as her lasso. It's sick. I love it. This book is so great. It's only 4 issues long. The action is brutal. Daniel Warren Johnson is one of my favorite creators in comics right now. Obviously, it couldn't be like canon to the DCU or anything, but God, it's just so sick. I'm sorry. Regardless of how they go about it, I think a Wonder Woman animated show is basically a necessity at this point, and it excites me a lot that Gunn has said that they have plans for Diana and she's not going to be forgotten in this new era.
I need you to give me the stone.
Okay, maybe we can forget about that though. The big pitch for this whole initiative is that the DCU is going to have the same actors in animation and video games that it does for the live action movies. And when I first heard about this, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. It puts a lot of weight on the actor they pick for the live action. If you don't like that they got Tom Holland for Batman, sorry, you're out of luck, because he's going to be Batman in everything now. Not to mention voice actors are some of the most dedicated people in the industry, and it would suck to see them not get a place in this universe since they helped define the DCAU. And having projects and animations separate from the movie continuity is, in general, a good thing. Like, if everything Marvel was MCU canon, we wouldn't get stuff like X-Men 97. And overall, it sort of felt like the animated properties were going to become an afterthought, just there to market the movies in some big corporate synergy fest. But now, after having thought about it some more and seen some more of the vision here with the Creature Commandos trailer and how Gunn has talked about it since, I've grown to really love it, and I think it puts so much more emphasis and importance on the animated projects than people are giving it credit for. Firstly, Elseworld stories are still going to exist, so things like My Adventures with Superman and Cape Crusader aren't going anywhere and will still get original DC animated properties. And so I think the idea with these DCU animated shows is to not only showcase lesser known characters, but also bridge the gap between the movies, to create those serialized stories that just aren't possible every 3 to 5 years and fill in the blanks between the big adventures, to show those day-to-day lives of these characters that makes the comics medium so special. It's sort of like what the MTV Spider-Man show was trying to do, funnily enough. That show was supposed to be set in the Raimi universe after Spider-Man 1, but it was ultimately ignored by the movies. But in theory, something like that could be a perfect middle ground and allow for characters like this version of Superman or the Flash or Wonder Woman to explore things that aren't really feasible in a 2-hour runtime. And so when a character like Blue Beetle or Question or Nightwing eventually pops up in the movies, there's already a catalog of stories and an audience of people who will be excited to see them in live action because they've spent the time with them in animation and had the chance to fall in love with them. I think James Gunn is putting animation front and center and giving the medium and these stories the same platform and the same level of importance as the movies. And I'm really excited for DC animation to make the comeback that I think it deserves. But what DC characters do you want to see get animated shows? Do you want them to be their own thing, or should they be part of a bigger DCU? If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and consider joining my Patreon for $1 a month. Special thanks to Alto the Sting, Ans, News425, Cabbage Boy, Cassidy, Caroline Brenman, Chicken McDoofus, Dan, Danny Boy, Eden Kenna, Egan McFarlane, Evan Bowers, Fastest Man Dead, Hannah C, Howard Bell, If You Know You Know, Iron Ninja, Jake Selig, Glass Bear Productions, Morpy, Murno9, Popcorn Eater 123, Sherbet, Spectacular Clyde, TDW Fan, Theo Crouch, Tim Neufeld, Choices by Razor's Lame, Tyler Goodrich, and Yash Kapoor for being spectacular fanboys. This has been Troy Boy 17 coming at you live, and I'll see you around.